Imagine it's a great sense of reluctance you've announced these job cuts today.
Well, absolutely it is. We'd hoped to be back up to speed by now, as indeed had the whole airline industry, but it's not happened. And I think the airline industry, like the pub industry, is suffering from a tremendous number of changes of direction, as opposed to keeping it simple like they've done in Sweden, with rules that everyone can understand, hand washing and social distancing, common sense. We jump from pillar to post to circuit, breaking to mingling to now curfews is the latest thing.
And do you think this 10 p.m. closing time is proportionate?
It's utterly stupid, because what you've got at the moment, Ian, is you've got 3.2 million hospitality workers trying their very best to enforce social distancing rules, which people will obey if they think they're in their best interests. And what they're doing is they're making those people redundant at 10 p.m. or so in the evening and turning everyone out into the street. So what are 19, 20, 21-year-olds going to do? Go home to mum? We've done a good job at social distancing in pubs, so have Fuller's, and so have most pubs. There's hardly any infections being passed on in pubs. 800 of our 861 pubs have had no infections whatsoever. Another 40 have had one infection. If it was desperately infectious in pubs, you wouldn't get pubs with one case. So it's mad, nuts.
Simon, let me bring in, you've been nodding vigorously to a lot of what Tim has been saying there. Is the pub sector being unfairly treated, given the way that it's worked closely with the government on things like track and trace?
Well, completely. You have to bear in mind that we reopened on the 4th of July, implementing protocols that we had worked on with government to make sure that we could operate safely for our colleagues and our customers. There is no evidence that the increase in cases, which are around 4,000 a day, is originating from pubs. It's less than 4.8% of cases are originating from pubs. So to see the sector singled out by the government overnight as being part of the problem is completely unjust, demoralizing for so many people that are going to lose their jobs through this pandemic. Pubs can actually be part of the solution. They are not part of the problem. It is a heavily regulated industry where we have successfully worked with the government, worked across the entire sector to put protocols in place to ensure that everybody is safe in pubs. So the government should actually be encouraging people to socialise in pubs, not in people's houses, and as Tim said, not spilling out into the street, going back to mum and dad and back to other families to infect potentially other people. Pubs are the home of responsible socialising, and the government should be actually encouraging people to socialise in a regulated environment, not an unregulated environment.
Simon, do you worry that we could see a return to, I mean, we've obviously seen opening hours liberalised over the last couple of decades or so. I mean, in the old days, you used to have this sort of half-hour closing time swill where everyone would knock back 3 or 4 pints ahead of closing time. Do you think you could see behaviour like that re-emerging?
I don't know, Ian. We're really digesting what's happening and trying to absorb the consequences for not only Fuller's but for the whole sector. I think what people have seen in the North East over the last 4 days is that that loss of 1 hour really impacts consumer confidence. So sales in the North East, I believe, have been down something like 50%. For an industry that was already dealing with the potential end of the furlough period, that will be absolutely crippling, and the effect it will have on consumer confidence will be enormous. It brings me back to really what the Prime Minister did on the 16th of March, where he kept the sector open, but put words out to discourage anybody from going to pubs. He should be doing the opposite. He should be encouraging people to socialise in pubs, not at home or in the street.
Tim, I guess one of the particularly contradictory signals being sent out here is the fact that this comes so soon after the success of Eat Out to Help Out.
Well, the whole thing is nuts, and we're going from pillar to post. I'm fairly certain the government hasn't got a clue what it's doing. The most important thing in our democracy is for Parliament now to take control of this matter, because there's a very large body of opinion from Professors Gupta, Hennigan, Michael Levitt in America, and many, many others who say that social distancing and hygiene are the only scientific methods. And what's happening is a bunch of colleagues, many of whom haven't been elected, are imposing rule by decree, as Graham Davey has said, Graham Brady has said, who's a Conservative MP. Parliament should now take a week to debate this. And the question for Parliament is, do lockdowns work? And if they go into that in detail and forget about political loyalty and try and get to the heart of the problem, they're intelligent people. That's why they've been elected. They'll say lockdowns don't work. There's a lot of other things that do, but they don't.
Simon, is it possible to put a number on how much this is going to cost you in terms of lost sales?
I'm not really interested in lost sales at the moment. I'm more concerned with lost jobs, lost livelihood, the morale and the mental health of my team. These are all things that are far more important to me than lost sales. I think this will be devastating for the industry, but it will be devastating for so many people. They're going to be cut adrift, predominantly people who are under 30. They're going to lose their jobs as a result of, I'll repeat what Tim said, some completely incoherent and inconsistent government strategies to deal with this virus.
Do you have any faith in the government to be able to mitigate potential job losses in the sector, Simon?
Well, there are things that, if the government are going to persist with this approach, there are things the government can still do. You know, we have a furlough scheme that is due to end at the end of October. We still, as a sector, have just over 900,000 people on furlough. The government must extend the furlough period if they're going to implement this curfew. They simply must extend it for the hospitality sector. They're going to need to give further VAT support to the sector to keep it afloat. We want to minimise, and I'm sure Tim's in the same boat as me, we want to minimise the number of jobs that are lost. And the only way that we can minimise the number of jobs that are lost is if the government extends the support that they've given so far and does not impose draconian actions on the industry.
Tim, you go along with that. Does the furlough scheme need to be extended for hospitality?
Well, you can do that. And probably you have to. It's a sticking plaster thing. The problem is you've got people running the country now who, by their actions, have no knowledge of money. Wetherspoon alone, just Wetherspoon, never mind, it's only a small part of the overall industry, pays 1,000, its customers, staff, and the company pays £1 in every 1,000 of UK taxes. You shut us down and you're already in financial problems. So there is no magic money tree for much more furlough. The problem is these jokers are ruining the country.
Do you think, Tim, that Boris Johnson's been got at by the likes of Chris Whitty and Sir Patrick Vallance then?
I don't know, but at the moment, he's definitely not up to the job. The job of someone running a business like Simon does, or I do, is to listen to what experts have to say, decide what should happen, and steer a sensible path, making sure you're listening at all times. What Boris is doing, I suspect, he's got some opinion polls that say, if you close down pubs, which a lot of people believe, then you will reduce the level of infections. The fact is, it's not true. And Boris has to explain that to people, which he's not doing, as does Michael Gove and others. So we need leadership and common sense and good economics. It's only with those things together that everyone can have the things that they expect and want from a country like Britain. The economy's being ruined fast. We're spending more money than we spend in wars, and we haven't had a war.
Simon, you've yet to reopen some of your city centre pubs, including a couple of my favourites here in the Square Mile. Is there a danger that these sites are never going to reopen?
We were planning to build momentum during September and open the remainder of our estate, and as you said, Ian, in particularly in central London. This plan to impose a curfew, and also, let me remind you, tell people to carry on working from home, shut the front door, work from home, don't socialise for 6 months, is going to massively impact central London and city centres. we will have to now revisit our plan to reopen our pubs. We wanted to reopen our pubs so that we could save the jobs. That plan will have to be revisited. It's heartbreaking for everybody. And as Tim said, the logic behind this is non-existent. The evidence that pubs are part of the problem is non-existent.